Hello, everyone. We are coming to you with Top Cut of the CE Mega Cup right now. I'm joined by Tyson Hughes.
And you have to introduce yourself too. You're
Oh, yeah,
Choppa.
I need to. I'm Chuppa. Okay, we are coming to you with a really excited Top Cut set. I think you may have had a chance to see the players that we have on our Top Cut. But for the first round, we are going to be showcasing a game between Ian Lee, who you saw on stream, I believe, in round 2 of this tournament, against Jairo Contreras, the Dragonite Master, one of New York's strongest players, both competing for their shot at the World Championships and trying to get all the points that they can today. Of course, on top of that, we talk about things like the amount of money or the trading card on the line today. Tyson, do you want to tell me anything you noticed about Jairo's team here?
Yeah, absolutely. So off the bat, of course, you kind of alluded to it, that Dragonite. Kind of what this player is known for running is that Dragonite. I still think it has a place in Regulation G, just not as prevalent as it maybe was in other regulations. With Chen Pao, those Terra Normal extreme speeds with the Choice Band are still threatening a ton of damage into a lot of the meta right now. Into some teams, it's not as good. But that's why something like your Calyrex Shadow Rider is on this team for to kind of do the other spread damage, to do a lot of damage. You're running Focus Sash here with the Astral Barrage, the Psychic, and the Terra Blast for 3 different forms of very solid damage. And again, with that Focus Sash, you're able to live 2 combinations of hit, or a combination of hits to that bring you down to the Focus Sash to guarantee that you get at least the 1 attack off for the turn. Some other cool things on the team are Raging Bolt. I actually don't think we've gotten to see Raging Bolt on stream today. Is one of my personal favorite Pokemon of Regulation G. Raging Bolt is very, very strong. If you think about it, it has the same typing as Miraidon and has almost very similar powers regardless of the terrain. With something like a Photosynthesis boost from that booster energy, you actually see very similar damage amounts almost sometimes from like those Draco Meteors or even those Thunderbolts.
Yeah, it's kind of funny to think that we've gone a whole day without showcasing a Raging Bolt yet. Like, how often can you say that during a, really, like, any Regulation G event? I know one other thing you mentioned was, so Dragonite hasn't seen the success this format that it has in some of the other regulations. You know, on paper, it seems like it might not be doing too hot against Calyrex Shadow, but one of the best counters to a bad guy using a Calyrex Shadow is a good guy with a Calyrex Shadow. The good guy being you, the Dragonite player, who can go for that extreme speed, followed up by a Astral Barrage to just pin them and say, like, okay, regardless of whether you're Terran or not, you are getting hit by a really powerful move here. I wonder if that's something that's going to come into play this game. I think another thing that, like, one of the features of Ian Lee's team is he is really adept at using those double follow me Pokemon of Smeargle and Clefairy to play around, you know, just make sure that his Calyrex Shadow has redirection and can sweep. But Dragonite's Extreme Speed is actually in the same priority tier as Follow Me. So whether the Extreme Speed or the Follow Me comes out first depends on the speed interaction between those 2 Pokemon. And I'm pretty comfortable saying that order is probably Clefairy is slower than Dragonite, Smeargle is going to be faster than Dragonite. So I wonder if Ian is going to feel a lot of pressure to, like, kind of keep Smeargle around so that he can actually redirect those Extreme Speeds. Or maybe it's going to be okay for, you know, keep your Calyrex as a Ghost type and, like, not have to worry about redirecting them.
And even more, I think the Dragonite with that Terra Normal is going to be immune to those Astral Barrages. So the main damage that Calyrex likes to do won't be applicable there. But Ian is going to lead off with that Smeargle Calyrex duo that we saw earlier. And Ario is going to lead off with the Calyrex and the... I didn't get to see that Pokemon. It's too small. Ogerpon. There we go.
Yeah, and compared to the last time that we saw Ian playing, I think Jairo's team actually has a lot more counterplay to fake out. There's, like, Calyrex Shadow is a Ghost type, 2 Inner Focus Pokemon, Ogerpon, which can use Spiky Shield to threaten Smeargle with a Focus Ash Break if it goes for Protect for the turn. This Smeargle is not nearly as comfortable just spamming Fake Out as it was in the last set.
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to touch on a little bit too. More than the Follow Me, I think being immune to the 2 Fake Outers on Ian's team is really the big star of the show here. I will say Ian isn't too afraid of Extreme Speed right now, considering you have a natural Ghost type in the Calyrex Shadow Rider. Being immune to those Extreme Speeds is going to be very handy. But Psychic here, targeting into the Smeargle, bringing it down, did go for a Follow Me there, I believe, or excuse me, a Wide Guard, stopping from the Astral Barrage just so it doesn't get knocked out this turn. Astral Barrage following up here. I really like that Wide Guard play from Ian to make sure that you don't have to Terastallize for something like the Dragonite in the back. Preserving the Terastallization is very, very helpful there, even if it means your Smeargle has to go down this turn.
I think this wide guard worked out super well despite not actually blocking anything because Jairo is worried enough about this miracle that he wanted to spend 2 single target attacks on it. And on Ian's side, that just means that Calyrex has done like almost 200% damage on its own. I think I'm pretty happy to like put the enemy Calyrex to its focus sash, knock Ogerpon down to like, I don't know, 20% or something, and really set up for this Calyrex and Urshifu together. However, one thing that's going on here is I have to wonder if these Calyrex are about to play a very, very important speed tie if they're both trained to be absolute maximum speed as a focus asset like Hyro's usually is.
I think if Ian's in this spot, unfortunately, you kind of have to play a little bit safe. I actually think a play that could be done here is assuming your Urshifu could live the turn from this Astral Barrage, considering it is the Splash play or Mystic Water. It has a little bit of bulk to it. You could just protect Calyrex, go for an Aqua Jet, knock out one of the Pokemon. The next turn, just go for another Aqua Jet into the next target.
Ooh, I like that a lot, actually. I wonder if that is something that Jairo is going to try to play for here. On the other hand, like maybe seeing a Life Orb set on Ian's team, he has some bulkier partners. Maybe Jairo just wants to assume that he's got the faster Calyrex here. What tear is this going to be? I think that this must just be the grass from Ian's side, right? Saying that even if Ian's Calyrex does go second, it's not like it's going to go down to 1 Astral Barrage if it gets rid of that Ghost typing.
And that's a little scary, though, because even if it doesn't go down, you're now susceptible to extreme speed. Nothing here on Ian's team is going to be immune to that extreme speed, as Astral Barrage does come out there from Jairo there, not knocking out either Pokemon. Ian's going to be able to follow up with an Astral Barrage of their own and get to +2.
Yeah, double knockout +2. What a good turn for Ian. We didn't even see Urshifu go for the Aqua Jet there, which is interesting. Seems like Urshifu kind of just saying that it expects to make it out of the turn. Maybe something like a Surging Strikes or Close Combat to try and cover a switch in a little bit better. The question on our minds at this point has to be, what does Jairo have in the back? Ooh, okay, so Chien-Pao and Dragonite. This is really interesting.
I think Entei makes a lot of sense, though, over something like the Dragonite, because it also has inner focus in the same way that Dragonite can be faked out or intimidated. Not that it was intimidated on Ian's team, but the fact that it can't get faked out is very big, and that Fire type is a lot better, especially with that Assault Vest as well. You have a lot more staying power against something like the Calyrex Shadow, and with the Assault Vest being the option there instead of the Choice Band, you have a lot more flexibility in the move that you want to lock in. Against the Rillaboom, you can lock Sacred Fire, then Country against the Calyrex, then Extreme Speed too if it wants to tear her out of it.
Yeah, honestly, it's really tough to see how Ian's going to get back into this game, despite how good the last turn looked. And that's like one of the spooky things about these Extreme Speed Pokemon is once they have you in a headlock, it is really tough to find a way out of it because of that combination of inner focus, the priority on Extreme Speed, how strong the Extreme Speed is. It is a really tough move to play around when you don't have the board state to deal with it. In this case, this Extreme Speed is just knocking out whatever it touches. Seems like it's going to be the Urshifu just going down to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, that Terra Normal, the same way the Dragonite is immune, so will Entei in this instance. And Sucker Punch is going to go off into the Calyrex. Ian not even going to try the mind games of the Nasty Plot. I think in this spot, you can't really risk it anyways, unless the Pokemon in the back is a Follow Me Pokemon. But as we talked about at the beginning of the set, if it is that Clefairy, the Extreme Speed from the Entei, assuming it's faster than the Clefairy, actually is going to be able to go first.
Yeah, Clefairy is not going to be able to turn this around at all. Like we mentioned, those Extreme Speed, like, redirection speed tiers are so important, and they mean that even if Ian had tried to go for something like a Protect, sack off Urshifu, swap in Clefairy, that would not have changed the outcome here. Extreme Speed still would have been very capable of cleaning up this game. I think Jairo kind of just showcasing how hard it is to find a Terra that really works against this team, because the moment you turn your Calyrex out of that Ghost typing, you let it take a little bit of damage, it is Extreme Speed time. I wonder what Ian might want to do in this next game to play around this a little bit better. Like, maybe trying to use this Miracle a little bit later in the game could be good. Like, I don't know. I'd probably still be pretty happy if I was Ian in the early game and I was using, like, maybe a Clefairy Calyrex combo instead. I guess you'd be pretty likely to just get hit by an Astral Barrage, though. You're still going to have to use up that Grass Terror right away. But then you'd have Smeargle in the late game to actually, like, redirect the Extreme Speed. But then again, maybe that's just not going to be enough when your Calyrex can't be doing Astral Barrage to fight against one of those Terra Normal Pokemon.
And it's really scary too because a lot of times in these extreme speed against these extreme speed teams, you can maybe fish get a protector two off to kind of see where the extremes or where the player's mind is at, like what slot they want to target, what they're prioritizing, or how they think or how they want to approach the matchup. So Smeargle not having something like that protector spiky shield is actually very large because it means for Jairo that it's very safe to go for an extreme speed and double into that Smeargle, recognizing how strong it is into his team. It's very, very safe to just double that Smeargle. Okay, they go for Terra Ghost. Next turn, I'm just going to attack it again. Like, they're so safe if a Pokemon doesn't have Protect to just double into that slot if you know the Calyrex eventually has to Terrasilize out of its Ghost weakness.
Yeah, and I think that's like really, I'm glad you brought this up. One of the downsides of Extreme Speed or like these other single target moves is like a lot of the time you have to get a couple plays right to use a move like Extreme Speed. Like let's think about Dragonite, Shenpao, and other formats where there's a lot of Pokemon running Protect. Doesn't matter like how good the matchup looks, your opponent might be able to get like a lot of consecutive Extreme Speed targets right, Protect on those, and make it out of the game. In this case, that's going to be a little bit tricky when Calyrex Shadow is kind of like the main Pokemon that's trying to move the game forward, and you're going to have to use up that Terra to fight the enemy at Calyrex Shadow. There might be other things forcing you to go for Protect. I think Jairo, like, this seems like a really tough lock for Ian to break. I wonder if this is, something that I should mention is I think Jairo actually lost this matchup really closely when these players played in round 5 of the tournament. So this is sort of like, at least the 4th game of this that we're seeing. And Jairo wasn't winning, more games than not prior to now.
And maybe the 4th game of seeing the same leads from both of the trainers here, as Ian is going to lead off with the Smeargle and the Calyrex Shadow Rider, and Hario is going to lead off with the Cornerstone and Calyrex Shadow Rider of his own. And this is the same spot before where, again, you have such a safe double up into the Smeargle here where it literally can't Protect. Yes, you can go for Fake Out into the Cornerstone, but then you're Psychic, then the next turn it's like Astral Barrage plus the Spiky or Ivy. But a Spiky Shield actually coming out here, maybe playing for that Fake Out?
Ooh, Fake Out. Ooh, okay, so Ian just like not getting this play right 2 games in a row. First game was the wasted wide guard, now it's just like the Focus Sash being broken right away. I think this might be the first time we're seeing Ian's Calyrex go first. I haven't been keeping track of that, but this does just confirm that it's a speed tie, considering that we've seen Jairo's go first in other instances. Not much of a surprise there.
Yeah, so Jairo winning 2 of the speed ties in game 1. I mean, again, if they did play in Swiss, they would have seen those speed interactions before. And that's probably why both the players look pretty stone-faced here. They're just kind of like, okay, we're flipping a coin every turn. We've kind of accepted that. You accept that in team building as well when you build a team around something like the Calyrex Shadow Rider. But the really important thing here is now Sturdy is still on the Cornerstone here for Hario. The Calyrex here, with that Focus Sash, able to live the turn. If it wins the next speed tier or next turn, you could be doing a lot of damage or forcing a potential Traumatization.
Ooh, here comes Tornadus. There's no speed tie in play now. Tornadus with Tailwind is just going to be able to ensure that Ian has the faster Calyrex than Jairo does right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like this position a lot. That Tailwind realizing how much of a problem the opposing Calyrex Shadow was, if it was faster or if it was winning those ties, kind of removing that quote-unquote luck aspect of the game, right? Where it's you're kind of leaving the game up to fate, taking it into your own hands, setting up the Tailwind, making sure that you can guaranteed be faster, could potentially lead Ian to a game win here for game 2.
Yeah. Another thing that I didn't call out about turn 1, Ian just left that Calyrex as a ghost type in front of the enemy Calyrex, saying like, hey, if you Astral Barrage turn 1, might just be over for me, but I don't think you're gonna. And now he is reaping the rewards of it. Save Tailwind Protect from Ian. I wonder if he's trying to set up for something like a Calyrex and Urshifu combo. Looks like Jairo has kind of seen through this and is just going on the offensive, though. I did not see which slot the Ogerpon is thinking to attack this turn. Ooh, gonna be the Calyrex, though.
And I actually think, so I think even if Tornadus goes down there, if it is Urshifu in the back, you set up a similar position to last game, where you have pressure into both slots. You're able to guarantee the knockout on that Cornerstone slot and potentially threaten something that switches in. And this time, instead of the Traumatization Grass on Ian's Calyrex, it's going to be the Ghost, so that end game of the Extreme Speed isn't going to be as detrimental. And then you can play games around the Terastallization into Grass to maybe avoid super effective Sucker Punch from the Chien-Pao and things like that. But we actually see a raw swap there from the Tornadus into Ian's last Pokemon, which is going to be that Clefairy and not the Urshifu.
Okay, so with the reveal of Clefairy, it suddenly makes a lot of sense why Ian is just absolutely making sure that he doesn't have to activate Terra Grass on the Calyrex because he knows he won't be able to redirect those extreme speeds from it. Again, that seems like it's working out for him, making sure that the Ogerpon is just like feels pressured to go for protect that turn. Ian with the Life Orb and the +1 boost from that first Grim Nay boost in play right now. This is a really deadly horse on the field. I think it's going to be pretty tough for Jairo to stop the sweep that this Calyrex is putting together. I guess if anything, something like, oh, this is a Assault Vest Entei. I had really assumed it was a Choice Band set, so I wonder if Assault Vest is going to give him a little more room to play with here, because I don't think that enemy Calyrex is capable of taking a knockout just yet.
Yeah, exactly, and that's exactly why I like the Entei here over something like the Dragonite, where the Dragonite has the Choice Band instead, and is going to be locked into a move if it does go for it. But with Entei, the Assault Vest gives it a lot more flexibility, going for extreme speeds or Sacred Fire if Rillaboom came to this matchup, or even the crunches. You have a lot more flexibility in that regard, and we actually see a Sacred Fire here being the strongest move of choice. I think locking that in, maybe recognizing that Ian's kind of debating here if they want to lock in Terra Grass or not.
I think I didn't catch if Jairo had locked in something like an Ivy Cudgel or a Power Whip on the Calyrex as well. But I think something that Jairo can take advantage of here is like this Clefairy only has support moves. You don't need to waste attacks on Clefairy. You need to force Clefairy to go for Follow Me, and you do that by attacking its partner. Even with Rengar in play, these strong physical attackers are going to be able to load up a lot of damage on the Calyrex. So I think Jairo actually is not looking so bad if he's willing to just like kind of spam those attacks and say that the Calyrex isn't capable of getting knockouts on him yet. We have to remember that the only Pokemon Ian still has in play is that like low HP Tornadus in the back. That is going to be baby food for extreme speed.
Yeah, I think the game now is get rid of this Clefairy, then get rid of the Shadow Rider, and the game is kind of yours. I know I just said get rid of 2 Pokemon, you win the game, but it is really that simple. This Ogerpon here is going to be able to live because of this 30 Sacred Fire, and the Ivy Cudgel is not able to get the knockout there. And no burn there. That 50% chance from the Entei is going to be very big at burning those extra turns. I mean, you do get the knockout this turn potentially into the Clefairy if it doesn't go for Protect, but from Ian, it's kind of a 50-50 almost, where the Tailwind is in the back for them, so if they go for Protect, they're burning that last turn. Do they let the Clefairy go down? Do they Protect? Like, what do you do here? You want to really get rid of this Cornerstone, but you also have to hit the Entei, that's Terra Normal now. There's a lot of decisions I think Ian has to go through in his head.
I feel like that last turn didn't actually change too much of the game plan for Jairo here. I think the game plan is just keep throwing attacks into this Calyrex Shadow. You know, maybe one thing you could do is just go for a Spiky Shield because your Ogerpon is at risk of going down, your Entei is not. Maybe something like a Giga Drain into Entei if Ian reads the Spiky Shield. I think if we're seeing a Terra here, that, you know, so the Terra Grass to get the boost on like Giga Drain is really interesting. I wouldn't be shocked if we see this play pan out for Ian, but I think getting rid of that Ghost typing on Calyrex is actually going to be like a really colossal decision here. It is the Helping Hand, +1, Life Orb, Terra Grass. This must be a Giga Drain. Oh, and Ogerpon saying you're getting 1 HP back.
I mean, that was the best play if you do lock in a Spiky Shield there. It's a Soul Vest Entei, but it is a Terra Normal one, so if you were going to have an out, it was to go for that Helping Hand play. If you were looking for something with more priority than the Follow Me, Helping Hand is your guy. The Giga Drain here, like you said, though, unfortunately only going to be able to heal that 1 HP, and you're actually going to lose more on that turn because of the Life Orb.
Yeah, because of Life Orb.
Then you actually are gaining, which is kind of funny, and you're leaving yourself susceptible to this Entei still, which we know Chen Pao is in the back for Jairo, and this game is looking pretty scary.
Right, especially, you know, I'm so used to thinking about these extreme speed Pokemon as if they have a choice band. That is just the item that I tend to slap on these kind of Pokemon. I think it's so fun, just that the damage from it is uncompromising. And I would say that choice band Entei could easily knock out a Shadow Rider from here. Assault Vest Entei, I'm not as sure about. So this Calyrex like might be able to take 1 more hit before going down. It looks like Jairo is trying to do a Sucker Punch on the Calyrex and an Extreme Speed on the Tauren. Ooh, so this Extreme Speed is just going to like get rid of the Tauren and then turn this into a 2-on-1. So this is absolutely a game-winning play for Jairo to have made.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you are Ian, you just kind of have to hope you live the attack and then maybe get a knockout. If you are able to get a Giga Drain knockout on the Qian Pao, you could 1v Entei somehow. like hope for a Sacred Fire miss or Extreme Speed just not doing enough against the Giga Drain because you would have got another knockout. That was kind of your out, but going for Protect there allows your Tornadus to go down, and Ian unfortunately is going to lose the set 0-2 there to Jairo.
Yeah, really well played set by Jairo. I think redirecting that Giga Drain was so clever. Like, kind of runs contrary to, like, I don't know, the last time that we saw, like, Joe using his Volcarona that got a lot of mileage out of Giga Drain. I forget if it was something that came up in the last set of Ian's that we watched. But when these, like, health recovery moves are prominent in the format, you have to have a plan for making sure that even if your opponent is clicking those moves, that they're not getting that much mileage out of them.
Absolutely.
Because at that point, it's just like a 75 power grass move. Big whoop.
Yeah. And it's not doing that much damage on top of that, right, with the Terra Grass even. It's a Calyrex at the end of the day. It's a high special attack, so maybe it's a dueling a little bit, but that Assault Vest and that Terra Normal is just so impactful. That's something I actually really like to see in the later half of Regulation G is how many Pokemon you could just kind of slap Terra Normal, but like between Fluttermane or even Entei, just slapping a Terra Normal on, making yourself immune to one of Calyrex's strongest stabs. Who would have thought it's pretty good?
Yeah, Dragonite and Entei, like, the funny thing about them is that they've been doing it since they were, like, added to the generation. They love that Terra Normal Extreme Speed, and Calyrex is just, like, one more target for them. One other thing about that set that I really want to highlight is how important the early game was. I think in those two games we kind of saw Ian, like, get plays incorrect with Smeargle. He absolutely did not make bad plays, but Jairo just happened to see through them. I think that's kind of, like, really the deciding factor of this game, based on, like, who got the maybe turn 1 and turn 2 right, determined who's going to have a big advantage for the rest of the game. And in those games, we saw Ian get it wrong. Maybe in their previous games, Jairo's the one who got it wrong, and Smeargle and Calyrex kind of had a field day with them.
Yeah, and recognizing what your end game is going to be is very important, especially when you're playing something like the Entei, which is going to just clean up the rest of the game. Recognizing how you get to that position where the Entei can clean up is an important skill, and for someone like Jairo who's been playing around with the Dragonite for as long as I can remember, that's something that comes naturally to him.
Yeah, definitely. Like, when you're in a matchup like this, you kind of have to have this, like, mental checklist of, like, conditions that you have to meet, like, side quests that you have to do before you can fulfill that main quest of removing the enemy Calyrex Shadow Rider with an extreme speed. And I think Jairo is a pretty experienced player of the game at this point. I think with that, we are going to take a break and move on to the semifinals soon. We'll have more information for you soon about which players we're going to be featuring. We will be doing both semifinals and then top cuts, so there is still a lot of Pokemon left to be played. There's a lot of great players in this top cut, so I'm sure we're going to have more amazing games for you coming up soon.